Alrighty, welcome back to the big show. I'm Jamel Hartman. She's Mia Shembray. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of companies, Medical House Lindos, and People's Pharmacy. Folks, don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Without further ado, let's give a warm TDH welcome to our guest for the day. It's the first Ask the Expert segment of the year. Give a warm TDH welcome to Michael Parker from the BAC Group. Welcome. How are you, sir?
Good morning, team. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. How are we doing today?
We're good. I got to ask you because they're trying to force me to run the Bermuda Day half marathon thingy. And I only got them to understand I've got these hip issues, but they're not buying it. But have you ever done anything like that?
Not to that extent. No, I'm more of like a 3 to 5K guy, and then I'm feeling great about myself afterwards. So I've never committed to that much of a distance. So
my kind of guy. Right, we're in the same boat. They're trying with this relay too. But thank you for doing this. Thank you for sticking around. Thanks for your patience and coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, these conversations have been really, really well received by our audience. And audience, if you have any questions for Michael Parker about your HVAC systems, feel free to ask. But before we jump into the meat of the conversation, just tell the audience a bit about your background and what it is that you do.
Sure. So I'm a Canadian expat living and working in Bermuda. I oversee the service operations group for BAC. And yeah, what am I now? Geez, sad to say, I'm almost 25 years in the industrial trades industry. So in one facet or another, hard to believe, but yeah, that's where I am. This is where I am now. And that's where I come from.
I thought you were going to say 25 years old. I was going to say, oh, okay, looking. Again, audience, if you have any questions, send them through. But jumping into it, I shared earlier on, I was really serious about me, trying to be cost effective, not cheap in my systems. But why is it so important to prepare an HVAC system? Because sorry, I must knock something over. Why is it so important to prepare them? Because most of us just turn things on and off when we need them, right?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And I think there's several reasons why it's important to consider this. I mean, the main one that comes out to me is with the costs associated with the equipment and the runtime. So HVAC equipment in many cases can often be up to 80% of your operating costs or your utility bills, right? So if they're not tuned up and they're not running smoothly, it can be a problem as far as energy consumption, as far as reliability is concerned, and there's also other concerns, especially in the Bermuda environment with the damp, wet winters. If mold and mildew and debris or allergens are a concern for you, then it's definitely something that you should consider taking care of. I think the car analogy works well, like protect your investment. I look at it the same way on the HVAC side.
Yeah, and I was, kind of diagnosed with mild asthma about 2 years ago in Florida because it's like Bermuda, very humid, and stuff in my closet was turning mold because I was not managing the AC unit properly. So I'm a living experience of that. Let's talk about spring though. Why is it important to prepare an HVAC system for the spring as we enter the warmer months?
Well, what happens once the humidity levels are sustained at a high rate and you get the high ambient temperatures outside in the summer, the run times are longer, it's more wear and tear on the equipment. And really, if you're doing some maintenance, you're just setting yourself up to, or if you're not doing maintenance, I should say, you're setting yourself up for potential failures down the road. So those are some kind of key points I would say that make sense to consider, doing some preventative maintenance rather than reactive. And the other thing too is as a service provider in the market, you can imagine once that heat hits, once the hot weather hits, we're inundated with calls, right? So being able to get out and take care of people in a timely and efficient manner also becomes like an operational concern for us on our side.
Okay. And audience, again, if you have any questions or comments for Michael Parker, please send them through. We'll get through as many as possible. What are some key maintenance tasks that people should perform before turning on their units?
Yeah, there's a few real simple things you can do on your own, even on an ongoing basis, annually, right? So
Mhm.
making sure that your filter's clean on your indoor unit, whether that's a furnace or just a wall-mounted like ductless split system hanging on your wall. Cleaning your condenser coil outside your outdoor unit. That's much like a rad in your car, so it rejects the heat that is absorbed in your house through the refrigerant. But there's fans that blow across it when it's running constantly. So any debris that's in the air, any pollens that's in the air, get pulled into that coil and can often plug it up. So what I do is, like, if I'm out washing my car or doing some gardening, I'll go out and run the hose through the coil outside and just basically run the water through the coil until, like, the water coming out of the bottom of the coil is clean, right? So you'll notice when you start doing it, it's going to be very dirty, and then as the water starts running clean, it's a good indication that you've done some good work there. And
Mhm.
another third one that you could easily address on your own at home is like drain lines. So the condensate that's removed, the humidity that's removed from the air in the interior of the home or the facility,
Mhm.
it rejects that condensate to the outside through a drain line, and they can get plugged up very easily. And if they get plugged up, then of course the drain pan's going to overflow and could
Mhm.
potentially cause some water damage to the interior of the building.
Well, going back to filters, because you mentioned filters, how often should air filters be changed, and what type of filters are best for spring? Like, are there particular filters that should be used?
Well, in this market, a lot of the ductless splits are very popular. So they actually come with a reusable filter that on the inside coil that's mounted on your wall. It's often the big white box mounted on the wall close to the ceiling, and you can just flip the front of those up and pop the filters out. Run them underneath the water in the sink until they're clean. Let them dry off and pop them back in place, and that'll help ensure that you have good airflow across the interior coil, and again, you're not plugging it up and causing it to run hard. But as far as frequency goes, I recommend quarterly. If you do it quarterly, I think you're well ahead of the game, and you're setting yourself up for success there.
Alrighty.
Mm.
What you mentioned, like when people turn their ACs on, you're inundated with calls, basically. What signs indicate that an HVAC system may need a professional versus a Jamel?
Yeah, I think, like, one of the questions we often ask when we're attending a service call is like, how'd the equipment run last year, right? So
Mhm.
what changed, in other words? So if you're noticing, like, last year at the end of the season, hey, this thing maybe isn't keeping up to temperature the way it used to, or if you're noticing any weird vibrations or noises that have presented themselves that maybe weren't there in the previous season, and oil stains in and around the piping and the outside unit is a pretty big indicator that you've got an issue that needs to be addressed right away on that one too.
Mm,
Oh, wow.
Does that
Hi.
make sense? Does that make
It
sense?
yeah,
Yeah, it makes sense, absolutely. Hi, Michael. I'm taking notes for my husband as we're going along here.
it's just nuts.
Notes for James, so, like, clean air filters, okay. I also told my husband once, and I remember he quotes it to me very often, that air conditioning is my favorite invention. So I am a
Mm.
queen of air conditioning, absolutely love it, which doesn't necessarily align with my environmental. I mean, geez. Anyway, so we talked about Jamel's love of being more frugal in regards to his running of the air conditioning. But how can homeowners improve their system's efficiency to reduce energy costs as the temperatures rise?
Yeah, that's a great point. So, like I mentioned, 80% of your operating costs or your utility costs are often related to heating and air conditioning, right? So, doing things like keeping that coil clean outside is going to be a big one. And like I said, it's so easy to do when you're out washing your car on the weekend or you're out watering the garden. You rinse that out because what happens, it plugs up with dirt, right?
Mhm.
Then the compressor needs to run longer in order to achieve the set point that you've set in the house. And it lowers the efficiency, it increases the power consumption, and it's more wear and tear on the equipment. So that's really a big one, I would say, that's super easy to do that a lot of people aren't aware that it's even something they should be doing.
Got it.
Right, yeah, it's definitely something I didn't realize my husband should be doing, that's for sure. But I actually want to learn myself. I'm going to try and learn this spring how to maintain our air conditioning. But I did touch on the environment, my love for the environment as well. How have HVAC systems become more environmentally friendly over the years?
Well, that's an ongoing, that's something like the industry is always striving for improvement on, right? So I think back when I started in the industry, we had chlorine-based refrigerants that were very toxic to the environment as they were released into the atmosphere, breaking down the ozone layer, kind of what started off or kicked off some of the like Montreal Protocol or Paris Accord conversations back in the 90s. And now one thing we're doing is moving to new refrigerants that are not based, that are more environmentally friendly based, as well as just things like even like compressor design or motor design, right? Like now we'll go to ECM variable speed motors versus like a motor that just is on always or hammers on and off. Compressor designs as well, the way they move refrigerant through the system more efficiently by using less energy. There's always these kind of technology changes happening. They're never ending. Quite honestly, it's always striving for better, moving the goalposts forwards. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. And of course, as technology improves, so does, I'm sure, the efficiency of HVAC systems. So that's exciting to hear that it's changed and improving all the time. Now, Michael, tell me, is it absolutely necessary to service air ducts before spring? And you said it should be done once a quarter, but is it necessary?
Well, yeah, not on the ducts necessarily. I think if you're on top of your filters, then that's going to help. That's going to help your ductwork maintain a level of cleanliness as well, right? Because if you let the filters accumulate all this debris and dander on them, then it's going to work its way through the filters eventually into your ductworks. But I would say it's on the filter front. If you're cleaning your outdoor coil on a semi-regular basis, and again, I'm in the industry, so I'll do the quarterly changes. But if you're doing semi-annual or quarterly changes on your indoor filters, then I think you're well ahead of the game, and you're setting yourself up for success in the future.
Fantastic. Now, when should people consider replacing their HVAC system instead of repairing it?
Yeah, and that's something that I think each system, each setup can be a little different, right? So it's hard to use like a blanket number there.
Okay.
I would say if you really want to drill down on that, it would be great to partner with one of our sales associates to have a conversation about life cycles based on your real world scenario. But like ASHRAE standards, general rule of thumb, if you will, it's usually 10 to 15 years is like the typical life cycle of a residential split system.
Audience, if you have any questions or comments, send them through. We'll get through as many as possible. Got a couple of questions so far. WKD Lama, are split systems less expensive to run compared to multiple window units?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So the multiple window units, as far as the technology goes, I think they're lagging a little bit in the split system. So that's something that varies too, though, because you can get different split systems with different energy consumption ratings, and it's like anything in this world. How much do you want to spend, right? So I would say, generally speaking, I would agree with that. That yes, ductless splits would be more energy efficient. But again, without doing the calculations, it's really hard for me to nail that one down.
All righty. Charles H. Jefferson II is asking, when traveling, what should one set their AC on? Is it different when traveling in the summer and winter?
Yeah, that's a great question too, because one of my other energy efficiency points I was going to make was considering using like a setback on your thermostat. So when traveling, long distance, I would probably, for longer periods of time, like if I'm gone for a week plus, I would probably just have my system turned off and not, be forced paying the energy bill to condition a space that I'm not going to be occupying. But one thing we can do on a daily basis even is, if you say want to maintain your house at say 72 degrees Fahrenheit while you're home, rather than shut the equipment off, you could do what we call a setback on a thermostat of a couple degrees, 2 or 3 degrees. Say, before you go to work, you change the set point inside to 75. Then it's going to like keep the edge off of the humidity in the house, and it's not going to let the dampness really sink in. But you're also not going to be paying to keep the house occupied or to keep the temperature at 72 while you're not home. And if you just turned it off, your indoor air temperature might go up into the 80s while you're gone, and then it's got to, when you come home from work and you turn it back on, it's got to run constantly to get it back down to that 72 versus just running for a shorter period of time to get it from, say, 75 down to 72, if that makes sense.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Great tip.
Yeah, that's a good tip, I think. Yeah.
Because I always I remember I was working in Rhode Island back in like 2006. And back then there was in the radio studio, they used to keep it on 72 year round, right? Now it gets cold up there, but that was they said, oh, that's the temperature that's what the human body works well with. I'm like, that can't be true. Everyone's body temperature is different and so on. But from that point on, regardless how I felt at the time, I actually tried to keep my AC on between 72 and 73 for my entire life. So if you ever come in my space, that's likely what it would be on. So interesting hearing professionals speak versus people arguing in an office about what it should be. Saying that, what products and services does the BAC Group offer for those having challenges with their HVAC system?
So yeah, BAC Group, we have a whole line. We offer basically every discipline within the group. So whether it be heating and air conditioning, electrical, plumbing, life safety equipment, building automation, we do it all. So insulation, sheet metal, we really do it all. It's about finding the right solutions for the right opportunity and partnering with stakeholders to develop that solution to help them out.
One last comment and you can touch on this. Earlston Chapman says, problem with split system is all rooms are affected if it fails. You want to speak to that a bit?
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, if your system goes down, you're down, right? And I think that's part of the reason why we're talking today, to just bring some tips to the community, right? To try to help the community have a leg up so that they're not faced with that situation. But as we all know, mechanical equipment fails. It's some would argue it's built to fail sometimes, but I'm not going to go down that path. But stuff happens, as they say. So I think if you're being proactive, then you're setting yourself up for success in the future to the best of your ability, and let the chips fall where they may.
All right. Before you head out, before we let you go, just remind people of some of the most important things to remember with their HVAC units as we head into spring and then summer.
Sure. So double check on that filter, that return air filter on your indoor unit, your AC condenser coil, the outdoor unit. Hose that off on a regular basis. Blow the dirt out of the coil till you see clear water run out the bottom. You can blow out your drain lines, and consider doing that setback on your thermostat. I think that'll help a lot of people on the energy consumption side of things. And if you ever have a question or concern, of course, don't be shy. Give us a ring. Come see us at the retail store. Drop by the service operations office. That's what we're here for. We're here to help, and always happy to have a conversation and network with new stakeholders. So please don't be shy.
All right, folks, give them a call at 292-0881. BAC Group. I was trying to be short, but Michael, thank you so much for this conversation. Definitely helpful for me. I think you've helped me with a few arguments. I'm not trying to get involved in any domestic situations, but someone in the audience, Charles Jeffers, says, "Can you tell my wife that turning the temperature down to 60 doesn't make it cool faster?" Look, his wife already gave me some words in person when she saw me at an event 2 weeks ago. So, Michael, you can do what you choose with that information.
I'm going to steer clear of that one. And thank you very much for your time. And I look forward to connecting with you all again soon.
Likewise. Have a wonderful day, sir.
You too, guys.
All right. Michael Parker, folks, the BAC Group really, I love that conversation. And I don't know about you, but man, I've been in, whether it's been work or people coming into my place telling me, oh, why is the temperature on this and that? And why is it off? But the scary thing was when I had that cough and everything in my closet was almost molding and I couldn't figure it out. And they were just like, this is Florida. This is humidity. You should not have your AC unit off. And, I purchased one of those cheap fans off of Amazon to keep me cool, thinking I was doing something great. But yeah, folks, I was being frugal, to use the term that Mia said. We're going to take a final break. We'll come back. Got a daily play in about 1 minute, 20 seconds. Do not go anywhere. In the meantime, whatever platform you're on, give us a love, like, thumbs up, and we'll see you in a few.